My work is very much about representation of cultural and historical narratives that, for whatever reason, have been deemed as minorities or peripheral, rarely kind of centralized. And I think the poem, which is written by Layli Long Soldier, who's Lakota, um, her poem Hesepa, when I read it, there's one section, and she writes sometimes in a way that the typography is like concrete poetry and it takes a shape. And so the phrase that we're using comes from a piece of Hesepa, which is it's a square, and it talks about kind of the exchange of how we see each other. And there's one line in there, it says, the space in which to place me. And I think I really wanted to see the pavilion as an invitation, of course, to Indigenous people globally, but also, really an inclusive space of other cultures and other people from other backgrounds. It is not meant to be a new exclusive space. It's meant to be as inclusive as we can be, as I can be. My dad is Mississippi Choctaw, and I'm a member of Mississippi Choctaw. And then my mom is Cherokee from Oklahoma. And they met. They're both born in the 40s, and they met actually at boarding school. My dad met my mom's brother at Haskell, and when he would go home with my uncle, and that's where he initially met my mom. They got married. My dad was drafted into the Vietnam War, and once the war was over, he continued working as a civil engineer with the government, and so that led to us moving around, during my childhood. I was raised to never, I mean, it's never been a question to me that I was Choctaw. I mean, it's always how I've identified. And my tribal chief and my family, we would go visit. And I was always the grandson, like the city kid grandson. Some people would make fun of me for the way that I talked, but I always just remember being very embraced. My grandmothers in particular, I was very close to, were always just hugely supportive of me. They always wanted to know what I was making. They would always, ask me to draw something for them. And then when I was in college, I did reach out to Chief Philip Martin, who was our tribal chief, and I wanted to go and teach art on the reservation when I graduated. And that was in my junior year when I wrote him. And he wrote me a really nice letter back, just simply saying, thank you for your interest, but they had actually shut down all arts education in the school. And they had shifted to trade skill-based technical school. And that was really Chief Martin's goal, was financial stability and employment with the tribe. And he was our chief for over 40 years. I want to say 47 years. But he said to me, he said, good luck. I wish you all well. Of course, we're here. We want to help you if we can. And he said, and you would also need a graduate degree to teach here. So I remember holding on to that letter, and I had met him before because, when you go to Mississippi, he would be at family functions and stuff. And I would go back and I would visit Chief Martin, and I would take him a painting, and I would go visit Nan. And I still wanted to go and teach. And he said to me, he said, honestly, he said, there's not really any place for what you do here. He said, you're going to serve us better if you go out into the world and, carry proudly with you that you're a Choctaw man and you're going out and you're making your art. He said, and just know that as part of his plan, he would go in front of Congress. And at the time, what his goal was to bring industry that was going to south of the border. He wanted to bring it to central Mississippi. And he was successful in doing that. And by the 90s, he shifted the employment rate of Mississippi so that the tribe became the largest employer with a surplus of employment. Our tribal kind of motto is Choctaw self-determination. And he would say that to me. And I just remember, I feel like with my dad, that's who my dad is. It's who, I don't know. So I I've never not felt Choctaw. Like I have felt like the unusual Choctaw person who was like moving around the world, but I've never not felt Choctaw.